Wisdom shines in talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. My comments bring this profound wisdom into your experience. Use YouTube's closed captions to read along. I'm Richard. Welcome. I'm reviewing and commenting on the book Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Today is from talk number 164, part 2. Maharshi, possibly thoughts have materialized. Go to the root of it. Questioner, how? Maharshi, if the way is external, directions are possible, but it lies within. Seek within. The self is always realized. Something not already realized might be sought afresh, but the self is within your experience. Questioner, yes, I realize myself. Maharshi, myself? Are there two, my and self? Questioner, I do not mean it. Maharshi, who is it that has or has not realized? Questioner, there is only one self. Maharshi, the question can arise only if there be two. Abandon the wrong identification of the self with the non-self. Questioner, I mean the higher stage of consciousness. Maharshi, there are no stages. Questioner, why does not a man get illumination instantly? Maharshi, the man is illumination itself. He is illumining. This dialogue revolves around the nature of self-realization and the practice of seeking within. Ramana Maharshi starts by suggesting that the thoughts experienced by the person may have materialized, thoughts turning into deeds. Ramana tells him to go upstream to the root of these thoughts. The seeker asks how, to which Ramana responds, pointing out that if the way is external, directions can be given, but the real path lies within. Since it is within, you must find it for yourself. Maharshi advises the seeker to seek within, where the self is always present and known, but we just don't notice. The self is always realized. We just confuse it with what seem like objects in the world and this body and mind within them. Ramana then says something of vital importance. But the self is within your experience. So you don't need to look for it in the world or to an external God. You just need to know yourself, not the transient person that you identify with, but the changeless existence/consciousness that you always are. This dialogue takes an instructive turn when Ramana Maharshi questions the duality between my and self. When the seeker says, I realize myself, Ramana introduces a subtle but profound inquiry into the nature of the self by asking, who is it that has or has not realized? By asking who realizes what, Ramana directs the seeker to investigate within. This question challenges the conventional understanding of yourself as an entity that engages in the process of realization. Ramana is guiding you to move beyond the surface level identification of the self as an individual entity with the capacity to realize. This inquiry aims for the seeker to examine the nature of the true self and unravel the misconception of an embodied self, a subject knowing an object. You are not a body. You are the always knowing consciousness that knows both body and mind. If you are a body, there is separation between the I that realizes and the self that is realized, a separation between the knower and the known. Maharshi's teachings are rooted in Advaita Vedanta, in the oneness of the self with the ultimate reality, or Brahman. In this context, the question serves as a tool for self-inquiry, prompting you to look within yourself and question the assumed duality. Who am I? The idea is the direct experiential realization of the non-dual nature of the self, yourself, the only self that there is. By emphasizing the unity of the self and encouraging the abandonment of wrong identification with the non-self, Ramana Maharshi guides towards a profound understanding of the true nature of the self. Self-inquiry is a fundamental aspect of his teachings, aiming for a direct and experiential realization of your true nature, beyond the limitations of the egoic self. Ramana Maharshi prompts us to question who it is that realizes or has not realized. Look deeply and you find the unity of the self. Ramana advises to abandon the wrong identification of the self with the non-self, to recognize the oneness of the self. You know the self because you are the self. When the seeker mentions the higher state of consciousness, Ramana Maharshi immediately dismisses the idea of stages, saying that there are no such distinctions in self-realization. There is only the self. There is only the knowing of the self. This aligns with Advaita Vedanta, which emphasizes the non-dual nature of reality. In response to the question about the immediacy of illumination, Ramana teaches that we are illumination itself, constantly illumining, constantly shining the light of our consciousness. The impediment to realization is not a lack of illumination, but rather the mistaken identification with the non-self. It is this misidentification that self-inquiry resolves. This dialogue reflects Ramana Maharshi's teachings on self-inquiry, non-duality, and the importance of seeking within to realize the ever-present, always knowing self. So inquire, know yourself, and be always free and at peace. These videos help bring Ramana Maharshi's teachings into your direct experience. Subscribe now